Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I would like to take the time to review Tekken 7, the 7th entry to a franchise I've personally long been a fan of. The Tekken series has been Namco Bandai's flagship fighting series since its debut back in the arcades in 1994. The franchise has helped establish Namco Bandai as a major force in the industry for the modern era. Sony can attribute their early growth of the PlayStation brand to Tekken, as well as a few other notable series. Now as time passed, the gameplay, sound, story, and graphics for the franchise have all evolved. Now we're at the point of seeing the next phase of that evolution with Tekken 7, complete with gameplay tweaks and functions. Tekken 7 marks the second time the series actually had an immediate story mode. In most mainline games prior, the story mode was basically relegated to playing the arcade mode and putting the story together through various character endings. The story, the Mishima saga, picks up after Jin defeated Azazel. It gives great insight into Heihachi's younger days, his wife, and the reason as to why Kazuya and Jin have the double gene. This marks the first time the story felt like it actually had some real effort put behind it. I don't want to spoil too much for anyone who hasn't actually played the game, but there are some very cool things in the story mode of this game. The first, being Capcom allowed Namco Bandai to have Akuma in this game, and he's pretty much integrated into the story. Another cool aspect is the fact that you can literally play while actually fight through the introduction of Tekken 5. One thing about the story mode that a lot of people will have to come to grips with is the fact that you really don't have any control over what character you play. In accordance with the story flow, you're given whichever character has a role to play in the story at that particular time. So with that, you really don't have any recourse to get adjusted to any one character. That's really a bad thing if you're a newcomer. But this is Tekken after all, so it's not like it takes a whole lot of effort to get the basics down at the very least. Aside from the main story mode, as you progress, other character chapters begin to open up. They open up after each chapter to try to match what's happening in the main story of the game. Now they're pretty short, but at the very least they do give a bit of extra context to going on with the main story. So they're definitely worth playing if you're a completionist. The main story in general is actually pretty short, but that's not really much of an issue these days. Most story modes in fighting games are like a side dish, while the rest of the package is where the money is. Once you get away from story mode, you get to see just how much was really put into this game. And that's not even counting the DLC, which we'll talk about a little later on. Okay, let's start with the arcade mode. Unlike story mode, the entire cast of fighters is at your disposal here. And just as in prior games, the opponents and stages are both chosen at random until you get to the bosses. The bosses start at the fourth opponent, Heihachi. The last opponent is normally Kazumi, but once in a while, they'll change it up and make that last boss Akuma instead. If you're an even half decent player, you can get through this in about 7 minutes give or take. And that's with me counting the loading time. One thing about arcade mode is that you don't get any endings for playing it. I'm guessing that since they have an actual story mode this time around, they felt they really didn't have to bother. Which in all honesty makes sense. Before I talk about this next mode, we need to take a moment to talk about customization. When it comes to both the Namco Bandai's fighting games, Tekken and Soul Calibur, they don't really skip when it comes to being able to customize your character. Tekken 7 is no different. You can earn them either by using fight money, which is the currency that you earn from playing the game in just about every mode, with the exception of practice mode of course. Or, you can get the customizations as rewards from Treasure Battle. The rewards are pretty plentiful. Some are for specific characters, and others are shared and can be used for any character of your choosing. Namco Bandai was also pretty generous with character save spots in this regard too. Each individual character has 10 spaces in which you can save your personalized character creations in. The player profile also gets a degree of customization tools too, should you actually choose to use them. Your title, title plate, health bar, and player info all can be tweaked to fit your own personal style. and you can earn more of them the same way you do character customizations. When you get online or play Treasure Battle, you get to see some very weird yet cool combinations for these characters. The only limit is your personal imagination from here on out when it comes to customization. Speaking of Treasure Battle, this is where I personally spent the bulk of my time playing. The main draw here is exactly as the title says, treasure. Every battle win here gives you something. Now of course, the items that you get here are random. I assume that the color of the treasure chest indicate the quality and the rarity. Every so often, you're given a chance to win premium items from a doppelganger of your character. The items that you receive should you win this fight is specific to the character that you're using at the time. Another way to get items, well premium items anyway, is to go on a winning streak. After you've built up a set number of victories, the game will have you face a special opponent. Normally, this is one of the characters that the game feels is a voice character. To try to vary the combat a little bit more, the game randomly hits you with stipulation matches. 1 minute, you'll be in a match where you can only hurt your opponent by air juggling them. The next minute, you'll be in a match where the game is intentionally sped up. Personally, this is the mode that kept me most drawn into the game. Now for the normal fighting game staples. Versus battle is just the usual player versus player mode. There really isn't much to say there. If you've seen it in one fighting game, you've seen it in all of them. And that goes double for the practice mode. Outside of fine-tuning your combos and general skill, there really isn't anything of detail to speak of in regard to the practice mode. Now, it's also worth noting that online and offline titles are kept separate. The online titles pertain to online ranked in particular. The offline titles are for the arcade and treasure mode. Now for a bit on the gameplay mechanics. For the most part, Tekken's general gameplay functions stayed the same traditionally. That is until now. Tekken 7 introduced a few new things that, in my honest opinion, made the game a lot better than it has been in past games. Now, you all know how fighting game communities are. People can get really good, really fast. Tekken 7 has a function that slightly alleviates that for newcomers, making it easier for them to at least somewhat compete. The function that I'm referring to is the assist button. Holding the assist button while pressing one of the 4 face buttons allows for the player to perform 4 set moves rather than having to perform them the normal traditional way. As a result, the game is a bit more accessible for the average newcomer. To make it even more player friendly, there's also an option to turn basic combos on. This ties a single button press to a full combo function. This is the kind of thing that pros and experienced players will hate to no end. But from a business perspective, I can understand it. The only way a fighting game franchise can grow is if you allow new players to feel comfortable coming in. And fighting game communities are known to have pros pop up very, very fast. And to be honest, that's actually a huge reason why most fighting games lose so many players so fast over time. The pros dominate the field, and the new players feel discouraged and so they don't bother anymore. While on the flip side, the pros may feel like all their practice and training goes by the wayside if anyone can just simply pick up a controller and be accessible. I can actually see both sides of this argument. However, if we're talking strictly on growth, accessibility is the way to go. Another new mechanic to the game is something that most fighting games have had for generations: the super move, or as better known as the finishing move. Tekken 7 finally has something of their own in that regard, and it's called the Rage Arm. Each character has at least 2, with the cooler, better looking one normally being a little bit tougher to pull off. In order for these Rage Arm moves to be triggered, the player will actually have to sustain a certain amount of damage. Once your health starts to glow red, that's the time in which you can actually perform the Rage Art. These techniques do a pretty good amount of damage. In fact, some players have actually expressed hatred for this particular new mechanic because of how drastically the technique can sway who has the advantage in a match. Then there's the Power Crush. Power Crush moves are techniques that normally can't be stopped while still attacking the opponent. However, the player will still take damage while they're in the process of actually doing a power crush move. If nothing else, these moves are normally there just for the sake of breaking up an opponent's momentum in a match. One final aspect of the fighting mechanics worth noting is when players attack each other at the same time. The game slows down for a moment, and you can actually see which character lands the blows first. Personally, I found this to be a nice little touch added in. This is the kind of thing that most competitive games, even beyond fighting games, could have used. How many times have we seen people complain who hit who first? This little feature that Tekken 7 has adopted puts all that to rest. The PlayStation 4 version also has a VR mode for those of you that are fortunate enough to have a PlayStation VR headset. It's a nice feature, but it does come off as experimental more than anything else. You can't play the story mode or arcade mode in this way, nor can you play VR mode and pick a friend. You simply pick your character as well as your opponent and go from there. That's why I personally felt it came off as experimental more than anything else. Lastly, we have Ultimate Tekken mode. This is just an upgraded version of Tekken Bowl from the first Tekken Tag Tournament game. The game has 3 modes: 10 pin for 1 player, 10 pin for 2 players, and Striker. 10 pin is just basic bowling with 1 or 2 players respectively. Striker is just a player getting as high a score as possible with a limited number of balls. If you get strikes, you get more balls. It's a neat little diversion from the fighting of the other modes. The only bad news for some is that this is actually DLC. Before we end this review, we need to touch on the DLC for a bit. First, that's pretty much with any game. If you're looking to truly be complete in terms of the game's content, grab the season passes rather than buying individual characters. It's pretty expensive, as with most fighting game DLC, so be on the lookout for sales. Luckily, the DLC for this game does go on sale routinely. Now, outside of some familiar characters that haven't made it to the base roster, you have a handful of guest characters that stand out. These from Fatal Fury / King of Fighters, Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, and Negan from The Walking Dead will appear and are playable. These, just like Akuma, comes from a fighting franchise, and also like Akuma, his moves and specials are intact, complete with his super move. As a result, he feels just as out of place as Akuma does. Overall, the game is very much worth the time and money. It welcomes both new and old players alike. Now the roster is pretty extensive if you're a completionist, and unfortunately, as per the norm these days, most fighting game DLC characters are expensive. So it's best to wait for the season pass or wait for sale. But as a fan of fighting games, I would recommend this game to anyone that has it in their collection. Hey everyone, thanks for taking the time to stay until the end of the video. I just want to take a moment to let everyone know about our weekly and monthly giveaways. We give PSN or Amazon cards to a random member every Saturday. And at the end of the month, we give out a full-blown physical game. Now, to have a shot at winning the goods, all anyone has to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, or our website and leave a comment. To be fair, it's probably good that you join us to all 3, just to give you a better chance. Now, there are times that we actually give PayPal money instead, in case we can't have on the card or game for whatever region that the winner hails from. Now, if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave a comment or, see the details at the website. Thanks everyone, and I hope you all have a great day.